Hello, everyone. Welcome to Your Mark on the World. I'm a Forbes contributor covering social entrepreneurship and impact investing, and one of my favorite subjects is social entrepreneurship and crowdfunding. And we have with us today one of the most successful crowdfunders in the world. From London, we have Samir Desai, the CEO of FundingCircle. Samir, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Well, we're excited. Congratulations, I understand, are in order. You've just completed a $65 million venture round. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about how that came together, who's playing in that, and what drove such a large round.
So FundingCircle, just for your viewers that haven't heard of us, is a very simple idea. We are an online marketplace that allows anyone, people, institutional investors, even government now, to lend money directly to small businesses to help them grow and expand. And we've lent around over $550 million to small businesses since we launched 4 years ago. And we expect to lend a total of $600 million this year alone. So it's a very fast-growing platform. In October of last year, we entered the US market through a acquisition of a local player called Endurance Lending Network that now is trading as FundingCircle. And the growth of that business has been phenomenal, even greater than our wildest expectations. So when we acquired the business, we were doing about $300,000 a month at the end of October, and in the month just gone, we lent $6.5 million, in the month alone, and that's around 15% of the total of our business, including the UK. So the business was going very well. We'd raised a lot of money before. We didn't really need the money, but we felt that there was huge opportunity to continue to grow the platform in the UK and US and to expand to other geographies, and that's really why we took the money.
So far, I think you said that you've ended up lending about half a billion dollars. Is that the correct sense of scale?
Yeah, so we've lent about $500 million, $550 million since we launched 4 years ago, but we expect to lend $600 million in total in this calendar year alone. So from kind of small, humble beginnings, I think we're starting to become a mainstream part of how small businesses access finance.
Well, it sounds to me like you're blowing the doors off, as we sometimes say here in the U.S., so that's pretty good. Tell us a little bit about who's in the round and how it came together.
We had a lot of interest from external investors to invest in the company, and that was largely unsolicited. So we were getting a lot of outbound interest, and we discussed it at a board meeting we had with our existing investors. We talked about how the money could be quite useful, and in the end, our existing investors said, why don't we just do it all ourselves? So, and that's pretty much what happened. So the round was led by Index Ventures. They've been a shareholder in FundingCircle since 2011, and they're our largest shareholder. Kind of outside co-founders and management team and employees. On top of that, Accel Partners, who had led the last round that we did, invested. Union Square Ventures, who led our Series B round, invested, and another venture capital investor, Ribbit Capital, that had a stake. So it was actually completely an inside round. We didn't take any extra money from anyone else. Which I think is quite rare for such a large round to be done internally, but is I hope a testament to the faith that insiders had in FundingCircle and the kind of trajectory and the performance that we've delivered so far.
Now, I certainly wouldn't claim to know everything about the crowdfunding space, but I'm not aware of any rounds larger than this. Are you?
Certainly from a primary capital perspective. So I think there may be secondary rounds larger than this, but in terms of new money going into the company, certainly I think it's one of the largest I've heard of.
Yeah, I think that the largest other round I'd heard of was And Indiegogo has done this twice, I think, already this year. They've closed on two $40 million rounds. It wouldn't be terribly unfair of them to suggest we should aggregate those, but they closed that in two $40 million rounds. So I think this is the biggest I've heard of. It's really quite a remarkable indication, not only of the scale of your business and its potential, but it really, I think, has a signaling effect on the industry. There is a lot of potential here, and naysayers, skeptics ought to be paying attention now when they see smart people putting in this kind of money, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, look, we've been saying this for 4 years, so I think I think the money is helpful. I think the growth of platforms like ours, other peer-to-peer lenders, other crowdfunders are as well. But I think this kind of movement in terms of certainly financial services, in terms of democratizing finance, providing access to financial investments that were previously inaccessible or only available to large financial institutions is the trend of our times, and I think it's only gonna keep on getting bigger and bigger. As we kind of talked about, people have been telling me how small FundingCircle is in relation to the overall financial system for years, and still continue to do so. I was on a Treasury Select Committee, which is a UK thing, yesterday, and everyone told us how small we were even then. But the answer is that FundingCircle has roughly been trebling every year since we launched. Our US business is growing even faster than that, and I expect all the other international geographies that we should hopefully be able to enter to grow even faster as well. And eventually that trebling adds up to a big number, even if it starts off a smaller number.
Yeah, it is remarkable. Tell us a little bit about the borrowers at FundingCircle.
The borrowers are all small businesses. So typically they have a turnover of between $1 million or $2 million. They'll normally borrow between, they can borrow up to $500,000 in the US and a bit more than that in the UK, but the average is between $100,000 and $150,000. And quite remarkably for me, they're very similar across the US and UK. So they've typically been in operation for about 8 years. So these aren't startup businesses. That's kind of not the area that we focus on. But these are restaurants, manufacturing firms, pharmacies, dentists. We've even had jetpack makers borrow through us. So pretty much any business, small business that you can think of, has borrowed from us. And the very main street type businesses that have just been left unable to access finance or is too onerous a process. And what's really exciting for me is that on average, after a business borrows from FundingCircle, they typically increase employment by about 2 people within 6 months, and they'll typically grow their turnover by about 25% as well. So what this really does is it really facilitates kind of growth in employment, growth in GDP, and as we both know, regardless of the geography, US, UK, anywhere in the world, small businesses are the kind of core of the private sector economy. They're normally 50% of private sector GDP, normally a higher percentage of private sector jobs. They're the real engine of the economy, and this is a really important and powerful way of helping those types of businesses.
It also seems, and perhaps this goes without saying, but wouldn't you argue that this has been an underserved segment of the economy, especially since 2008?
Yeah, I think 2008 has kind of accentuated the problems, but I think the small business borrowing process, regardless of the geography you're in, is basically broken. It takes 15 to 20 weeks to get a small business loan from traditional finance providers. It's very difficult to get online. So you normally have to go into a branch or an office and apply for the loans, and it's all paper-based. It's just not in line with the 21st century where people are using digital books and digital music. People want digital loans as well. So what's been quite fascinating for us really is that the US is very different to the UK in terms of the structure of the banking system. So in the UK there are basically 5 banks that do all the lending, whereas in the US there are thousands of regional banks. So we always wondered if there would be a big difference, but what we found is that regardless of the structure of the market, regardless of the geography, the extent to which the small business borrowing process is broken means that this model works anyway, and that's been very very reassuring for me and our shareholders, and it's quite positive.
Well, this is really an exciting moment in time, and it's exciting to see what's going on. Samir, it's been, I think you've had a great run, and it really has all the signals of this being just the beginning of the opportunity for FundingCircle. It looks like we've got a little bit of a connection problem with you. I hope we'll be able to get you logged back in time to say goodbye. It's been a great discussion. I'm glad that we were able to connect with you, and for the opportunity we've had to learn about your round. Clearly one of the most remarkable, if not the largest, funding round in the history of the crowdfunding industry, certainly one of the largest. Certainly we're seeing that this is a signal of the growth and maturity of the crowdfunding industry and the potential that it has to revolutionize the economy. So Samir, thank you very much for joining us today. Why don't you tell us, just before we go and wrap up, tell us where we can go to learn more about FundingCircle.
Yeah, I'm sorry I cut off again. It's www.fundingcircle.com.
Fantastic. And that's where small businesses can go to borrow. It's also where investors who are interested in participating in these loans can also go. Is that correct? I hope that's correct. Yes. So, Samir, thank you very much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure to have you, and we really appreciate you taking the time to share your news. And again, I congratulate you on the tremendous news of this big round. Let's do some good.